We have African people that have much larger noses, much larger lips. The conventional explanation is that white people's noses are taller because it's cold weather and they cool the air down on the way in. Mm-hmm. Black people's noses are flatter because the air is hotter and they don't need to cool it down. That's very, very hypothetical. There's no real science to back that up. It started to have the first interbreeding occurrence that led to blue-eyed, white-skinned people.
Science will say that environment, climate, is what did this over, thousands and thousands of years. Do you accept that at all? I guess not.
You can't explain why climate, for example, leads to seeded here by extraterrestrial races. In other words, most of the human beings on this planet are not local. The white person did not exist on Earth prior to about 10, 11,000 years ago. That's when we started to have the first interbreeding occurrence that led to blue-eyed, white-skinned people.
Science will say that...
Most people would just automatically assume, well, they went to live in the north where there's less sun,
yes,
so therefore their skin changed colour. But that's not the case.
According to Professor Steve Jones, an eminent professor of biology, that is absolute nonsense.
Right, okay.
There's just no reason at all for pale skin.
You would want to absorb more light, and, why did we lose hair if we came to a colder climate, etc.?
Yeah.
So obviously something's wrong with that idea.
Right. All right, and Nigel contends that the white races, the northern European races, have probably had the most interference from this outside entity called the grey alien.
Yeah, and he doesn't say that. It's very important to say he doesn't say that from the point of view of a kind of reverse racism.
Right.
It's just he's letting us know that, right, that's there, you may need to do something about it,
right,
and maybe suggesting ways that we could do something about it. And if you look at the record of the European nations throughout history, in terms of colonialism, imperialism, and what they've, the havoc they've wreaked on the world, it makes the point,
that
really.
It's the blue-eyed white races that have got their finger on the nuclear... what about China? Because he mentions the Chinese as well, doesn't he? He says that they've had significant intervention. Am I right there?
That's right.
It's the black people who haven't.
Not that they haven't. There's been interception all across the board. They found ways of doing it, but the most efficient way to do it is on cell nucleuses that aren't protected by the melanin shield.
Okay. Right.
That's just the most efficient, easiest way to do it.
Now let's come on to the final part of the thesis. Then they're making these changes because they're continually trying to somehow attach themselves to us so that they can piggyback onto our souls. Have I read that right?
That's right.
So
Which is impossible to do.
Right.
From their perspective and their programming, it's not realised that that's the case.
Right.
Yeah, that's the difference between the theme that runs throughout Nigel's books. The difference between what's natural and what's synthetic. Mm-hmm. And what's synthetic can never really bridge into what's natural. It's not possible to recreate a pathway back from the finite into the infinite, from our physical universe into the state beyond. You can't do that out of make a bridge out of atoms. It's just absolutely impossible. But as artificially created beings, they can't know that because they don't know, they have no reference.
Right.
So they're looking for something that can allow them to somehow recreate their original creator beings in the best possible context that will allow them to survive physically.
There's so much crime. Okay. Remember when we did that 23andMe thing a while back? Yeah. Wasn't Dean like 90% Neanderthal? Yeah, yes, but you had...
Neanderthal DNA indeed does influence many traits in modern humans, and it's a diverse array of traits. So traits involved in the immune system, traits involved in our skin, but also traits, psychiatric traits and neurological traits. We found that Neanderthal variants influence your risk for a skin disease called actinic keratosis. These little scaly lesions you get on your skin as you're aging and getting lots and lots of sun exposure. And it's very possible that whatever those variants were doing back then may actually have been protective. But now, in current levels of sun exposure, in current environments, it's not good.
Related to everybody, the Neanderthal should match the French guy and the West African guy equally often.
But that is not what they found.
When we compared one African to a European individual, the Neanderthal matched the European individual more often than the African one.
The result indicated that Neanderthals were genetically closer to Europeans and Asians than they were to Africans. It meant that somewhere along the line, European and Asian humans had picked up Neanderthal DNA.
So that was sort of quite shaking to me. I thought this must be a statistical fluke.